All right, Dreams by the Cranberries. Great pop song with some really cool melodies throughout. Interesting, there's no guitar solo, it's sort of a couple vocal solos instead, which again makes some cool melodies to play around with. There's also some nice sort of signature rhythmic breaks that we can try to throw in. All right, so starting from the beginning, I'm starting just with a bit of a flourish up and down to get into the first chord. Now the first chord is an E major, but I wanted to have this melody note here. What I chose to do for my own comfort is that I'm playing the open E string, 7th fret on the A string, 6th fret on the D string, muting the G string, letting the open B, and then your G sharp on the E string, letting that. For my own comfort, I kind of like that because it leads very much into the next chord, this A, keeping that melody note up there. But this is kind of a big stretch, and it involves muting that G string. So, like this. And then rhythmically, downstrokes, then those big hits, like that. But over those big chords, if you prefer, you could also do an E like this, if you want to keep that melody note, make it maybe a bit easier fingering. Oops. Be okay too. For myself, I liked these two chords. Third chord's a B7. And that big hit, just hitting the, slapping with the heel of my thumb to get in the next part. Now during this next part, I sort of tap the heel of my thumb against the guitar body to give a little bit of the feel of a bass drum. It's not real loud, but just to get a little bit while I'm doing this sort of signature guitar picking through the chord here. It's sort of a partial arpeggiation while you're doing, or you're also keeping the heel of your hand and the bass note going. So you can skip the heel of the hand and just focus on the bass note. To make it a little easier if you don't need that bass note in there, okay? Ends with the open E. Now we're on to the melody. And here in the melody, I'm also keeping a little bit of that bass note going here, the bass drum going with the heel of my hand, but mainly the focus is on the melody. So here I'm doing the melody on the top string, but letting the B act as a drone just to fill it out a bit. Okay, now this is a pretty big stretch. This also is just my preference. You could also go just a pretty big stretch, or something like this. Something like that. If you don't want to do this big stretch here. Like that, okay. And it repeats, but now harmonized. Really good stuff just to know how to harmonize your scale in these sixths. Okay, and this is definitely an awkward stretch here. Again, you could do it, play it up here, rather than doing, again, just my personal preference, and letting that ring out. Next part, again harmonized in thirds this time. And we have now the signature rhythmic hit. Okay, the second one here I found to be pretty difficult because for a B, if you do it like this, it's really easy to hit that G string, that clashing note. So I'm sort of barring here, so So from the beginning of that. Sort of hitting that with a slap. So I'm sort of barring the whole thing. You could also do it like this, if you prefer just a regular B bar chord. And you're doing this vocal harmony. Now this is probably the biggest stretch of the whole song. This here, if you don't want to do that big stretch, again, you can do it up here. Okay, to illustrate how you would do it alternately, you could also, if you want to start with a B bar chord, you can go like this. Rather than doing this. Like that, okay? Then you're into the last part of the verse, or what really feels like a chorus. Now you're doing a regular backbeat. With those rhythmic hits. You could do. Yep, to get that note in there. There's several different ways to finger that. You can find your own. Again, that's what works for me. Okay. Then we're into this little bridge where it shifts to the key of G and sort of a vocal yodeling solo, sort of. So I'm hitting a big solid G chord. Then I'm focusing just on the G string and the two notes. You see the right hand hitting all 6 strings, then just the bottom 3 or the bottom 4. Now just the top 2 or 3 strings. So again, you're going a lot between big strums across all the strings to just partial notes. And you're throwing in then some rhythmic accents. Okay, during that I'm really just hitting the one note, or maybe 2. Resolving then to this E major. Now you're doing the melody again, but down an octave. And then harmonizing it as in the first verse. Going back to this little, basically chorus, very much the same as the first time. It's exactly the same. Okay, next part is exactly the same too. One more time through the verse melody. Now, very much just focusing on the melody. Just bass notes and the melody. Okay, and I threw in this little harmonic little flourish where I'm just picking through part and then fretting with my index finger on the top 2 or 3 strings, like that, using my ring finger here, you can't really see it, but my ring finger to pluck up. And hammering and pulling off, rather. So if you want to do that, you don't have to do it. You can just play through E suspended to E major, or you can do this. Harmonizing the melody, as in the first verse, again. so the last vocal bit. Okay, now the end, and this guitar picking imitates the very first part. But now you're throwing in the rhythmic hits. And those rhythmic hits at the end, they're a little tricky, but if you want to imitate the drums, you're doing that. So after the last, just throwing the snare, that slap, giving a triplet feel for a few bars. Then we come to the ending melody, which is a lot of fun and pretty quick. So E major, then throwing that melody note. There, a little trill. Okay, and this is a big stretch to do that. You could also do it like this and not worry about these notes in between. You can just do this. You can do it like that instead. Just avoid the G string, which is open if you're doing it like this. Okay, those with hits, those rhythmic hits there are like. Pretty, this might be the trickiest part of the tune actually, is that. Ba. Slap. Slap, pluck, slap, pluck. That. Then repeat again. Then repeat again. Then repeat it again. Again, that same trill melody, but now with only the bass note. Or just the melody without bass note. Ending with the E major triad over the bass note. Alright, hope this has been helpful. As always, let me know any questions you might have.